Arrive, I'll call the council to order. Let the roll reflect that all council members are in attendance and a quorum has been established. Council, you have before you tonight the minutes of the regular meeting of August 17th, 2015. Any additions or corrections to the minutes of that meeting? Seeing none, they stand approved. Next, we'll have the introduction of new firefighter paramedics that recently came on board here at the City of Hastings. So I'll introduce Melanie and Chief Shute to introduce our new personnel.
Good evening, Your Honor and Council, members of the public. I see we have a number of our staff members here. It is tonight my privilege to introduce our two newest firefighters joining our organization. I was doing some looking and I did some math, and in the last 2.5 years, we've welcomed over 35 people into our organization in either new roles or brand new to our organization. That goes into admin, police, fire, communications, IT. I think every department has been impacted. It's certainly been a period of change and a period of excitement, sometimes a period of uncertainty, but it's given us an opportunity to look inside and ask ourselves, what kind of organization do we want to be? What kind of people do we want to work with and next to? And to answer that, we've reached throughout our organization and we've asked that question. And it's allowed us to not only understand our strengths, but also look at where we have opportunities. We've looked to our community members and our peers to help us pick the best of the best, because that's what we've decided we want. And that's what we decided the community deserves. So our new firefighters join us as part of an investment by the City Council to increase staffing numbers, grow capacity, and continue to serve. When I speak to a period of change and excitement, I think our fire and EMS department personifies that pretty well, because we're adding staff, both full-time and paid on call. We're changing operations. We're just kind of questioning everything with a really, really strong foundation. It's a great group of people, and I'm proud to have two more folks join our organization. You've heard me talk about this before. We've developed a hiring process that's thorough, it's fair. One I believe embodies what we say we want to be an employer of choice. These two gentlemen come to us tonight following an extensive process. We do interviews, we do written examples, we do a physical fitness test, we do integrity testing. We've mutually decided that Hastings is a good community to work for and to be a part of. So I'm thankful for those who help us through the process, our staff, commission members, public, our professional peers. Their insight and perspective helps us uphold our high expectations. So we welcome Adam and Brandon with high expectations for our core values: serve the community professionally, humanely, and to add to the fabric of our organization. I've said this before, and I firmly believe that public service is an honorable calling, and I'm glad to have these two join us. I'm going to turn over to Chief Shute to finish the introduction of these two gentlemen.
Thank you, Melanie. Chief, nice
Thanks,
to have
Melanie.
you at the meeting.
Mr. Mayor, council members, as Melanie had mentioned, I want to give a special thanks to the commissioners, some citizens, some members of the business community, firefighters, and other departments who assisted in the hiring process. It was very instrumental, and they all played a very important role. But a special thanks to Melanie, Assistant Director John Townsend, and Assistant City Administrator Julie Flatten for their assistance in this process. They all put a lot of effort into it, and very much appreciated. So tonight I'd like to introduce you to Brandon Sharmer. Brandon, if you'd come up, please. Brandon was born and raised in Winona. He has 3 sisters and a brother. He has served in the United States Army. He's done a tour in Iraq and in Kuwait with the 131st Infantry. Shortly after he returned from Iraq, he got hired by Winona Fire and Winona Ambulance and has been down there for a little over 3 years before coming to Hastings and work with us. And I also would like to welcome Brandon on one more level. Brandon is now a local resident of Hastings. He bought a house and moved in here just prior to the holiday weekend. So welcome aboard.
Chief.
Lindsay, stand up. Brandon's fiancee, Mackenzie, will place the badge on Brandon. Mom, Dad, if you want to come up and take some pictures, feel free.
Excellent.
Also with us tonight is Adam Finseth. Adam and his wife Tara live in Savage. They have 2 children that are with us tonight. And prior to coming to Hastings, Adam also served 2 tours in Iraq as a combat medic. After that, he spent some time working for North Ambulance in the metro area as a paramedic, Northfield EMS, and then most recently at La Crosse, Wisconsin Fire Department. So we currently welcome Adam, and his wife wants to do the badging on him. And if your son wants to come up too, that'd be great.
Very good. First of all, I just want to welcome Adam and Brandon. Welcome to our department. We're very proud of our Hastings Fire Department. It has a long history, storied history, proud history here. And you'll find that our citizens have great confidence in our fire department and our ambulance crew, and serving as firefighters and as paramedics. And so we want to welcome you. We place our safety in your hands, and a lot of times you'll be making some important calls, and that is when people are most vulnerable. So what you do and how you get to that call and how you respond to that call is very important. Many times people are in a very emergency situation and very emotional, and I think you'll fit right in very well, because I know that I've heard great things about our current staff and the paramedics and the firefighters that respond to calls, and we look forward to your service here in the great city of Hastings. Next, what we'd like to do is I'm going to ask our council members to come here and bring your families up, and we'll have a photo taken, a group photo, okay? Get close together so we can get in the frame. Almost got the piece all over. I look like a restaurant. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, council, the next order of business is items to be considered. Is there any additional items to be considered? If not, we'll go to consent agenda. Council, what's your wish? Councilmember Schultz makes a motion to approve, second by Councilmember Brox. That motion is now before the body. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Next, we'll go to the administration portion of our meeting from under reports from city staff. We have a public hearing tonight in regards to sidewalk cafes with a liquor license amendment for the 2nd Street Depot Bar and Grill. And Julie, you'll handle that for us? Turn that over to you.
Mayor and council members, tonight we are asking you to hold a public hearing to consider approval of a sidewalk cafe license and liquor license amendment for the 2nd Street Depot Bar and Grill. They have turned in all the necessary forms, paperwork, and insurance requirements. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. What we'll do now is open up the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to that item? Okay. All right. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, this item is before us. What's your wish? Councilmember Schultz? Councilmember Schultz makes a motion to approve, second by Councilmember Alonji. That motion is now before the body. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Next, we have two more items that are related. We have a resolution before the City Council tonight to approve the preliminary 2016 property tax levy and preliminary budget, and setting the truth and taxation hearing date. Melanie?
Your Honor and Council, thank you for, thank you. I'm just waiting for this to queue up a little bit. I've got a little brief presentation. I did provide a pretty robust staff memo, but did want to provide a brief presentation on the preliminary levy and budget and kind of where we are and where we're going. So we're going to start with what is our budget. You know, for the last several months, we've talked about internally with our staff about how to develop our budget process. We've talked a lot about process, but generally it's a setting of priorities. So we're looking to decide how we want to use our limited resources to invest and continue to invest in Hastings. We want it to be a place that continues to welcome people to live, work, and play. And we go back to our core values in the city's strategic plan as guiding documents for that. So we are led through this process by our Finance Committee members, Councilmember Schultz, Alonji, and Nelson. And we've had 3 meetings over the last several months, and they provided some insight and direction for us. One of the things we've done is look through our historical information. So we look at our tax capacity and our levy, and you'll see that after a period of several years of decline, we are inching back up with our tax capacity. That means property values are going up. We saw 11% increase last year, and we're proposing projected overall, this is overall property specific, will vary, 4% for 16. And you'll see that our levy has remained relatively stable over that time frame. And then we look at local government aid. For a number of years, we had local government aid coming in. It was then cut down to 0, and it has been a revenue source that has been reinstated. And we are expecting approximately $600,000 for 2016. Then we look at our tax rate. You'll see that we've had some ups and we've had some downs. We've been hanging around that mid-60s number. You'll see that it's gone down a couple years. And then for 2016, as we look at the direction provided by the Finance Committee, we're hanging steady with about 63.5%. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Then we look at our debt levy. This is what we need to satisfy our outstanding debt. We try to stay around that $3 million mark, and for 2016, we're right about there. That number varies depending on when debt comes on and goes off. So we take the historical information, then we also start looking at our funding sources. We have, of course, levy dollars, and we have charges for services. The donut chart you're seeing right now is all city funds. So it's not just our general fund that's funded by levy dollars, but it's all of our funds. And you'll see that 37% is allocated to levy, or funded by levy dollars. And then we've got charges for services, licenses and permits, we've got special assessments, we've got debt. So those are all of our funding sources. But then when we look at our levy-supported funds, you'll see that the amount of levy dollars needed to support those funds increases up to 48%, and then our charges for services decreases. So as one area decreases, another one has to fill that gap. So we take a look at all of these these funding sources. And then we also take a look at what kind of expenses do we have. So like any household, we've got two kinds of expenses. We've got our capital, which is our one-time investments to buy or reinvest in equipment. That could be something like our street and utility improvements, where we are going to repair our infrastructure for the benefit of the community. It could be something like a police truck or a police vehicle or a dump truck. Or it could be an initiative investment such as Riverfront Renaissance. So those are some of our capital investments. But then we also have our operating expenses. These are daily, monthly, annual expenses. Just keep our operations going. Clean water, our snow removal operations, our parks and open spaces. And then of course, public safety is a big investment and a big use of our dollars and a big priority, of course. So then, we take a look at our preliminary expenses. And with all of our city funds, you'll see that between public safety and public works, that's over 60% of our operating expenses by department. We throw in our Parks and Rec department, we're at over 70%. So you can see that we've got some really high needs over there, just broken down by just core functions of operations. And then we look at the type of operating expenses, and you'll see that personnel costs are a significant part of our budget. It's about half. So throughout all this analysis and review and discussion over department requests, available funding, and just a thorough vetting, the Finance Committee provided staff with a directive to develop a 2016 preliminary levy, which is 3.73% higher than our 2015 levy. It equates to about $450,000. And it's important to note that once we set this preliminary levy, it can't go higher. It can go lower, but this is the cap that we're setting for ourselves. And we have lowered it in the past. We have set a preliminary levy and then lowered the final levy by December. The question that we often ask is, what's the impact on a property owner? Under this scenario, there are two ways that your taxes would change. One is a change in value, higher or lower, or a change in your tax rate, higher or lower. And you'll see that for 2016, we took a median property. This is just a average property in Hastings. And if under the 3.73 levy, preliminary levy number, the change in value would account for $64 in increased taxes. The change in tax rate, that's the 3.73% that the Finance Committee has directed us to develop, will result in $24 increase in property tax. Total impact, $88. So then what are our next steps? Tonight we're asking you to approve some resolutions setting our preliminary budget and levy. We have a city workshop scheduled for just under 2 weeks on Monday, September 21st at 5:30 p.m. That's going to be with the full council to review the preliminary budget in more detail and provide direction to staff on those final levy and budget. In December, we have 2 meetings that we will be providing further budget action on. One is a truth and taxation hearing, and then the second meeting will be the budget and levy approval. So we've got a couple more months, a couple more things to finish up. I would like to express my thanks to my staff. They've done a great job with providing alternatives with budget options and continuing to push on new pieces of equipment, different pieces of equipment, challenging how we operate. So they've done an excellent job, and they continue to do an excellent job. And then I'd like to thank Councilmember Schultz and Nelson and Alonji for their leadership with the Finance Committee. They are truly a great group to work with. I don't know if anybody else, if Councilmember Schultz may have some comments, but that wraps up my comments, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Council, I will open up for discussion. Councilmember Schultz, Chair of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Your Honor. Melanie and staff, thank you very much for that great presentation, sort of the basics on budgeting. It's obviously much more complicated than all of that because you've got a staff that works very hard during the budget process to come forward with the various needs that they feel are necessary to make the proper investments and make all of our departments and the city move forward. And then it becomes the job of Finance Committee and the finance staff to kind of whittle that down to something that is reasonable and that we can actually afford within our budget parameters. And I think everybody's done a really good job on this. The one thing that I think it's worth noting is that we do have some personnel cost increases for 2016, and that's due to a couple of different reasons. We have obviously new hires. We're going to get a larger fire department per our fire study, which I think we would all agree was a necessary and worthwhile and needed, a necessary thing that we needed in the city. We have some cost of living increases and some market adjustments based on some of our policies, and those are things that have to move forward in 2016. But aside from, and you saw that personnel costs are almost half of what we do, which is not unusual for an organization like this. People make us what we are and make everything move forward, so that is a very common thing to have. We've got insurance, heat, power, personnel, all of that is a definite increase over 2015, and that is something that, some of that is within our control, some of it is not. And our staff has done a very good job, particularly on the insurance. They've done a great job in coming up with a new strategy for health insurance that is actually costing the city and our employees a little bit less money, which I really have to applaud them for their hard work. And something that I hope people don't stay up late at night worrying about, but it's called fiscal disparities, which is a very complicated process that affects us as being part of the metro area. And we are going to receive about $200,000 less in fiscal disparity money in 2016 than we did in 2015. And it just has to do with the way some things are working, and it is partly contributing to our increase in our tax rate. And that is something that we actually can't really do anything about. It's sort of the way everything is shaking out based on what the numbers are metro-wide. And of course, people are going to probably see an increase in their home valuations, which, depending upon who you are, it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. But that has an effect, as you saw on Melanie's presentation, and so that's what people are going to see on the bottom line. But there are some really good things in this budget that we're going to be working on. I already mentioned the whole fire department issue. We're doing some good park investments. Obviously, Riverfront Renaissance is in there. We've got the police department is making some additions, and they're working hard on various issues, the police body cams and all of that. So overall, it's been a lot of hard work, but I think that between the staff and my fellow colleagues, the two Tonys, Nelson and Alonji, we've done some really hard work. We've really sharpened the pencils, and we've got a pretty lean, tight budget that is not extravagant, and but is going to really help the city move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is further discussion? Councilmember Vaughn.
Thank you. I have a question for Councilmember Elling Schultz. My question that I'm hearing from the residents is, how will we communicate this plan? You mentioned some of the items that you're doing, and maybe we'll talk about this in the workshop, but I think it's important. You mentioned a few of the items, but how do we get that out when you say capital investment? How will we take this message and communicate with the public of this is what's coming versus saying, here's your levy dollars, and what kind of the guts of it? That's my question.
Well, Melanie, all of this is on our website. Am I correct? Exactly. We hold a public hearing. It's in November, which kind of puts all of this forward. And we can get any kind of basic information that anybody would want or ask for, or have a package ready for anybody to see if that's what they're interested in seeing.
Councilmember Schultz, Mayor and Council, we do have a number of pieces of information on our website. We also have a vast array of other information that might not be available on the website, but we certainly can get it out there. That would be informational for the community perhaps to see. I think there will be more solidification after the September 21st meeting, it's important to remember that just because something comes forward as a proposal doesn't necessarily mean it's been properly vetted. So I would want to caution about laying everything out there, because there's lots of great ideas out there that the timing just isn't right for them. But I do think we've got a lot of really good information that the public would find helpful.
Councilmember Alaji?
Thank you. I want to add my thanks to Councilmember Elling Schultz, and also thank her for her leadership. Thank Melanie for her leadership. I also want to thank the staff here for their outstanding work. High integrity, high standards, much appreciated. Couldn't do it without you. We just really had a nice process this year. Dan has done this a few more times than I have, but I've had the privilege of doing it more than the average person up here. And we've had some very trying years. This fortunately was one where at least we started with a decent financial position because of the economy, because of good stewardship over the last decade or so, at least. And I just really am proud to see some of what we've been, where the discussions are, and the fact that this is, even more than usual, a pretty clear reflection of our priorities. And I think, Councilmember Vaughn, you'll see when we have the full meeting on September 21st, there'll probably be an opportunity for us to kind of come together and talk through what are our talking points, not because talking points are strategic or spinning or anything like that, but because the talking points are really worth talking about. They're really going to be the sorts of things that we're going to want to talk about on whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn. We're going to want to make sure that the press, whether it's KDWA or the Hastings Star Gazette, gets it. We're probably going to want to say it a few times at these meetings, as well as we discuss, every time we welcome new firefighters, every time we welcome new police officers, we're going to want to talk about these sorts of budgets and how they're going to figure into these resources and how we're going to figure it into the budget. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to communicate this. I'm looking forward to doing so myself with our constituents, and really appreciate the opportunity once again to serve on the Finance Committee and help us figure all this out. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'll seek a motion as well.
I believe it's the first motion to set the levy. Am I correct?
Right, the resolution to adopt preliminary
Preliminary
city
levy?
property tax levy, budget, and truth and taxation hearing date.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, you move that resolution forward?
Yes.
Second by Councilmember Alangi. Okay, that motion is now before the body. More discussion to that motion. Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. And then next, we have the HEDRA a special tax levy. Melanie, perhaps you just describe that briefly.
Your Honor, and Council, statute allows us to levy a separate levy for under HRA HEDRA authorities. At this time, we're asking of the Council leverage up to what is permitted by state law, which is what we have typically done. So that is the recommendation and the resolution that is before the Council.
Okay, Council, what's your wish? Councilmember Nelson makes a motion to approve the HRA resolution, set that levy. Second by Councilmember Vaughn. That motion is now before the body. Is there any further discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Okay, next, we have comments from the audience. Are there any comments from the audience this evening? Okay. If not, council announcements. Announcements? Councilmember Schultz.
HEDRA will be meeting on Thursday night. That is September 10th, correct?
That's correct.
At 6:30 here in council chambers.
Okay. Headdress this Thursday at 6:30. Any other announcements? Okay. Seeing none, I have a few announcements. First of all, I'd like to relay, I got a couple of phone calls from residents in the 18th and 17th Street area by Eddie 17th, Eddie and 18th, and that neighborhood there, that they've noticed some real speeding issues and people not obeying stop signs. And it's not just a couple, it seems to be happening quite regularly over there due to the increased traffic with a new business. So I'm going to ask Melanie if you can contact the police department and to let them know that I've probably got 3 or 4 phone calls about one particular individual who thinks going 50 along Eddie is the state law or something, that needs to be educated, and that rolling through stop signs are not is not the way you handle a stop sign. So So I just wanted to pass that along. I know there's a number of citizens that are concerned over there, and if we can pass that along, police department, maybe we could get that sign over there for a bit and increase enforcement. Okay? Thank you. Announcements. I have a few announcements. The Planning Committee of the City Council will be meeting on Wednesday, September 9th at 7:30 a.m. at City Hall here. What's the agenda of that meeting? Mr. Chairman?
Your Honor, I'm going to ask Millie to help with that one.
Okay.
It was a while ago that we scheduled it.
Your, Your Honor, Counsel, that is for a development by Dominium, and that is over at the Schoolhouse Square.
Schoolhouse Square possible proposal.
Possible-
Okay.
possible development.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. So that's at 7:30 a.m. Wednesday. The Arts Task Force will be meeting this Thursday, September 10th. It says 7 p.m., but I think it's 7 a.m.
It unfortunately is 7 a.m., Your Honor.
Okay, so 7 a.m. this Thursday, Arts Task Force, because they're so enthusiastic and they love arts, they want to talk about it at 7 in the morning. So that'll be this Thursday at 7 a.m.
Are we unfortunate because it's at 7 a.m., or is it unfortunate because it was the wrong time that was written?
The a.m. portion is what's unfortunate,
Yeah,
Council
AM.
Member.
This weekend, I know I'll be there Saturday. Councilmember Alonji will be there on Sunday to give the Gettysburg Address, some of the fun things we do. But Civil War weekend, this weekend at the Leduc Mansion, it's a great weekend. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of visitors from out of town there. Council members, if you get a chance to be there, please do. And members of the public, it's a great weekend at the Leduc House, and a lot of education. This year's theme is, this is, of course, 2015. So this is on 150th year, the sesquicentennial of the end of the Civil War. And so they're going to take a look at that perspective as part of their theme there this year at the Leduc Mansion. The Fire Department Relief Association Booyah, very good stuff. I highly recommend it. Very good food. Sunday, September 13th. So this Sunday, September 13th. There's no Viking game to conflict with that because the Vikings play on Monday night. And so I don't want to hear any excuses about why people aren't there. The Planning Commission will be meeting on Monday, September 14th at 7 p.m. here at the Council Chambers. The HPC will meet on Tuesday, September 15th at City Hall. Public Safety Advisory Commission will be meeting on Thursday, September 17th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. And Hastings Saturday Night Cruise-In, our next one will be on Saturday, September 19th. Council, there's no further business before us. A
Excuse
motion
me,
to adjourn.
Your Honor. I actually have one more. I would be
Okay.
I would be remiss if I didn't note that it looks like it's a council member's birthday coming up on September 17th. So Councilmember Brox has a birthday coming
Well,
up.
we can't let that, thank you for that very important message. Councilmember Brock, happy birthday. And what day is that again, on September 17th? That's correct, it is Constitution Day. Will you be reading the Constitution on your birthday? Okay, well, that'll be great. Well, happy birthday, that's great. Okay, thank you, Melanie. That was an important piece of business. Councilmember Bolsanic?
I have a note here about a workshop on the 16th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Has that been canceled?
Phase 3.
On Phase 3?
Phase 3,
Phase
Riverfront
3?
Renaissance Phase 3 workshop, correct, is at 6:30 to 8 o'clock that evening.
Okay, and that
Yep.
is here?
That is Wednesday, the 16th. Yeah, we'll have it here at City Hall.
Okay,
Probably in the volunteer room, I think.
all right.
Thank you for noting that, Councilmember, appreciate
You
that.
bet, anytime.
Okay. I believe there's no further business before the council. A motion to adjourn is in order. Councilmember Schultz makes a motion for adjournment, seconded by Councilmember Vaughn. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. We are adjourned. Thank you.